Okay, so let's move on. Editing is often described as the invisible craft, but it's the one that ultimately shapes how a story is felt. This panel explores the rhythm, judgment, and creative instinct behind some of the most memorable films of the past 50 years. Leading the conversation, please welcome our moderator, Chief Creative Officer at Saatchi Saatchi, Franki Goodwin, editors Bill Smedley, Ellie Johnson, Eve Ashwell, and Rick Russell.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the cut that makes the story. Now, it wouldn't be an editing panel if we hadn't cut a sizzle reel. So, and I think it was Rebecca at tenthree had the unenviable job of putting these legendary editors' work into one perfectly formed sizzle. So let's play it. Now, they say that a story is told 3 times: when it's written, when it's shot, and when it's edited. This is famously credited to Bresson, but who knows? So I think that's a great place to start with you guys. It's been written, it's been shot, it comes to you for its 3rd writing. Talk to me about how you find the story in the edit, Rick.
So I kick off. Yeah, that premise is sound, but what's very different about the editing is you've got the writing, which is very much, obviously it's in the room, the writer, the written word. Production is the shooting of it, with all the challenges of the environment, the actors, all the things that are compromised on the day. And then it comes to us, and it's like we're sort of reformulating, rediscovering that original idea, concept. And we have to judge it entirely in its own right of what comes to us as the footage. And I don't know, same for the other guys, but I prefer not to have too much briefing, too much sort of advanced discussions about how this is going to go together, because I want to discover that myself. I like to be able to sit with the rushes for however long we've got in the time schedule to get the feel of it, put assemblies together, put it together, even without the director's input, and then share that. So you've got your initial reaction to the material, which you never get a second time. If people start talking about, oh, don't use this, or perhaps not that shot, or the client wasn't so keen on this character, you can't get that out of your head. So you start to think, should I be using this or that? You want a clean sheet, the terrifying blank timeline, and you select material and start to discover the story a 3rd time.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely, I think, that if any kind of little nudges or kind of things, that you get sent your way, it's, as you say, you can't get them out of your head. So as blank a canvas in a way to start with is definitely the kind of way to go, I think, But, also, certain jobs are a much more open brief than others. And nowadays, there's a lot more anxiety, it seems, with clients about, nailing down, a board and, and a structure and how it's going to look in the edit. And, and that can be quite hard to slightly kind of break the shackles of. But, I don't know, some jobs come in a lot more of an open brief. I've just done one recently where it was there was no, there was no guidance. There was no storyboard at all or anything, which was, really exciting. Yeah, But it's sort of a bit rarer, I think.
Definitely.
Nowadays.
And I think even within our editing process, it can be written 4 different times. It's like if we're lucky enough to spend time on our own, you have one version.
Totally.
Director comes in, you start to adapt to the original vision or sort of what had happened and what you can mould it into to get the best of the creativity out of it. Then the agency come in and you're then having to craft it a little bit more, still well, in a sort of slightly different way to answer some of the tick boxes that we know that we have to hit in the format that we work in. And then the client can come in and make something totally different. But it's like editing, it's kind of designed to be like that because it's the last time that anybody in the process gets that real in-depth creativity that you can change things. Things can be massively different from cut 1 to cut 100, for better or worse. But it's really important to spend the time and really look into what is possible in that editing room for ourselves, but for the entire teams that we work with, to know the limits of the footage and what you can get out of it, to make sure that you've got the film is allowed to find its best self.
I think also as well that those beginning days that you hopefully have alone, they're so important because you've got that kind of neutrality where you don't hopefully know about the horror stories that may or may not have happened, but you've also got a chance then to develop your own kind of relationship with the material. Because I always think, the agency, the client, the director, producer, they've had all this time in the lead up to the shoot where they've developed a relationship with what is being shot. They've cast, they've done wardrobe, they've scouted, they've found the location, built the set. And then you get given all of that and you kind of almost have to have time alone to develop your relationship with it so that you care about it. Because these people, they've had like weeks, sometimes months to care, to learn to care or to sort of have that, you know what I mean?
No, and with agencies, sometimes like 6 months of
Right.
like, there's been no
longer
obsession and their
and
life.
then day one, the expectation, hopefully, is that you care as much, or that's what you want to have. And if you don't have the time to develop the relationship with the material alone and have your own thought processes and ideas and kind of connect to it in that way, I then find it really difficult. It's much harder to then fight for stuff because you haven't developed the connection to it. So I always find those early days so important to be left alone because
you have to bond with it.
Yeah, you have to bond with the material.
You almost you take ownership of it. It's like it's your.
Exactly.
It's very possessive. We're all.
It is.
You have to let go. At
Borderline
times.
OCD control freaks. Anyway, so you get the
100%.
stuff in, and you really. It's like, what am I going to do with it? How can I maximise the potential of what I have?
Yeah.
You know, and that's our role. Really.
Sometimes when that time is really contracted, I can sort of say from my point of view, I don't want to see it for a week because I've been, I've been so in it, and that time is so important for you, but it's also kind of important for us to step away as well. And when you feel that contracting, and it's like, oh, well, you're going to see a first cut on Monday, and you're like, I just landed. What are we doing?
Yeah, we wrapped yesterday.
We feel that difference.
Yeah.
Like when somebody's had a bit of a break.
Yeah, but actually, like sometimes maybe more across the water, but there'll be like the demand to come in straight away to kind of like because that's going to help the process and improve it, and it's quite stressful for an editor.
But it must be scary for them, right? Because again, like if they have spent the 6 months, 18 months, whatever, writing it, it's their baby, and it's like, and I really had to learn that sometimes it's their control, and they know exactly what they want it to be. But if you've got a good editor, they can show you the potential of something different, and you can still get, you can force anybody to do anything. Like you can make your edit exactly how you thought it would be. I'd push against it, but you can get it. But you only get one opportunity to have that kind of off the rails opportunity of like, this is the potential in what you've got, or from an outsider's perspective, this is what I think we could make. And you just have an opportunity to share that.
And what's so precious is because later on in the process, often everyone's in the weeds and trying this, trying that, and often it can get a bit confusing. What cut 38, 30, 39, and sometimes you go, but what did I do on day one? What did I do when no one was in the room as my first reaction to the material? And it can often be like comedic timing, or it's production value, or it's pacing, and you go, that's what I did on day one, and I'll often sort of try and sort of go, oh, well, that's great.
Kind of make it
So I don't
feel like
admit
it's
it's
wrong.
day one, but
There'll be initial stages. You can sort of sometimes kind of get that feeling where you're like, you're like, okay, that was wrong. Obviously, everyone did it. But if you do go back, and sort of, can discover
there are
some really good
instinctive choices, aren't there? Because I think that's the other big thing about editing. There's the
Gut instinct.
the gut instinct,
Yeah.
and there's the sort of cerebral, the thinking, the logic.
Mhm.
So, and for me, always, when an edit is good and I feel it's done, is when it feels great. More than it makes sense now, I get it.
Yeah.
That has to happen. You have to tell your story, you have to have clarity, but it ultimately I have to feel goosebumps when I
Yeah.
watch it. That's what
Yeah.
I'm looking for.
That's why it's hard to justify edits sometimes, isn't it? Because it's
Yeah.
actually, it's not,
It's not a logic,
no,
it's a feel.
feeling.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a feel.
Yeah, and
thing.
you feel it, but it might not be what everyone was looking for.
Expecting,
But
yeah.
And when you get those rushes, and you're going through them with the blank canvas, what's the most sort of common mistakes or frustrations that you find? Is it coverage, or is it more than that? Eve?
I mean, I struggle a bit with too much coverage.
Right.
When you've got a million different possibilities,
Yeah.
particularly when you're doing comedy, I know that's the craft of comedy. It is do 15 takes of it and find the one that works the best. But I just get kind of a bit bogged down on it. I find it so difficult to see wood for the trees and all the rest of it, and you end up having to do these multiple passes.
I think with comedy, what's really hard sometimes is when it's a really long take and it's funny because of the length, the duration.
And
that
then
they've
you
maybe
cut it
they've
up
had,
and then
yeah, and it's
nobody
not
finds it
funny.
funny.
And everyone's fallen in love with it on set because
Yeah.
it was hilarious on
Yeah.
set.
And
Also
they'll tell you that as well.
Exactly.
That take.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've got to use that.
We're
And
getting
then
all
you
the
put it in,
gripes
and then
now.
it's
yeah,
like,
it just
oh,
falls completely flat.
in this 15-second.
And it's like, it's a 20-second take, and of course it's hilarious because they've been warmed up and they're kind of ad-libbing and it's all hilarious at the time. You put that into a gap that's 3 seconds long and it doesn't work at all.
Also, you see actors where they're getting the hang of the scene, and you might be 10 takes in, and you feel, it's getting better, they're getting the hang of it, and then suddenly they're asked to hold the bottle the different way. No, the red bottle, the yellow bottle, and you can see then they get
Their
really
mind.
confused, and
Yeah.
their eyes go blank. And unless the director gets through that to the other side, where they refine their comedy mojo, you can be left with only a few takes that were instinctive, and the rest are all, too many choreographed demands.
Yeah, I mean, generally, don't find coverage a problem. I had it recently where they just ran out of time and they just didn't. But we still actually made it work, and it was fine. But I don't know. I mean, obviously it is if you don't have, if you can't cut away somewhere, and that happens rarely. But
Is that
We're kind
more
of
a
the
long
problem
form?
solvers, aren't we?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like anything that is a problem. In theory, we're equipped to find the best way through it.
Yeah.
And I think if production have a really clear idea of what they do want to get out of it, or sort of just the tone, everything kind of matching in terms of the sensibilities of how it's shot, you don't generally feel, I don't come across too many problems,
No.
thankfully.
You say in long form it's different. There's less shooting ratio,
Yeah.
and you're assembling as the film's being made. And part of your job is to see if there's anything missing.
flag up
And so you
stuff.
have to keep
Yes,
up to
of
camera with all the
course,
scenes.
yeah.
Actually, we need a close-up, we need a reverse you didn't get.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
then
have to feed that back because they've only got the time that they've got while the actors are around. Commercials, normally there's enough in the 3 or 4 days that you're going to probably be covered.
Find a way through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's too much is sometimes more the problem than not enough.
For me.
Though it can be with just generally with time as well. If you're suddenly
Time,
landed like 20 hours of rushes and everyone wants to come in the next day, that's also
Yeah.
could be like quite stressful.
Yeah,
there's
there's
a
a-
sort of maths problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
You
weird...
can't
Hours
actually
of the
see
day.
it
I know.
by the time
There's a
you-
lack of understanding sometimes that if you've shot 20 hours,
Yeah,
I
you
need like
need-
4 days to
Yeah.
look at that and
Exactly.
select it rather than
Yeah.
one.
So stepping back, what makes a good editor in your opinion? What do you think makes a good editor?
I think you have to be stubborn,
Right.
actually. I think they start with the negative. We're control freaks, like you
Yeah.
said. We like to
And-
control our world. I think we get stubborn.
And to have taste and confidence in your taste, I think.
Like the
Definitely.
instinct
Yeah.
Yeah.
has to be switched on.
Yeah.
You have to know people. Like, I mean, what percentage of it is actually editing versus running the room?
Yeah.
Plate spinning, keeping
yeah.
everyone. Yeah. I know.
Understanding what different people in the room needs, understanding what people at home sitting watching TV need.
Yeah, that's
Don't-
right, because you're holding like a few different things in your brain at the same time. You wanted the director's kind of vision, the agency's client's brief, let's say, and then the viewer's experience of it, and you're kind of arbitrating between those three things, plus your own
Yeah.
viewpoint as well.
Knowing how to kind of, if you say no to people, then it's generally not going to
If
probably
you
work
smile
out.
when you say it, it's fine. I've learned.
But I think if you, readily, look, do what, people ask for something, do have a investigate that, you know, and I think if you, you know, generally, you know, people will then be satisfied, and if it doesn't work out how they kind of thought, then it's, you know, can come back round to, you know.
Yeah.
I'd say the other thing, you need to, and it happens over time, but you need to be really comfortable with lots of genres of cutting, be it dialogue, something very simple and restrained,
Yeah.
something very effectsy, something montagey and freeform, something that's to music. And it's all the same techniques, nothing special, but it's just, you're just
Confidence in them.
confidence and experience in those different genres, because sometimes you'll get something when someone will rebrief it entirely and say, well, we were thinking it was going to be a much more pacey, crazy thing. Can you make it like a sort of, like a sizzle reel rather than something more controlled? So you have to be able to say, how can I work this material? It wasn't intended for that, but use tricks to make it feel pacier or more visual.
Yeah.
I think confidence is a huge part of it, because you spend a lot of time in that process with something that's not working yet. It doesn't, you know, you don't throw shots down on a timeline and it's perfect. It's a process that you go through of it not working, kind of working, that works, this doesn't, that was better before. And you have to be comfortable with that not working part of the process, because I think if you aren't, you panic. It becomes really overwhelming, you know, an empty timeline or a timeline that doesn't work yet, and you've got people coming in the morning is a horrible place to be. So you have to be, it's like calm. You have to know that whatever problems you're finding, there are solutions to, and you will find them. And it's that, I say in my head, whenever I get into that place, I just say, trust the process, trust the process, trust the process. And it's like a mantra that I have in my brain. And it's knowing that you will get there, even though you spend a lot of time, a lot of your job is not being there. So it's about having a calm confidence, because you don't want to panic, because that's when very bad decisions happen.
It's always like that.
Every job.
Every job, the material comes in, and you're working, you know, on more and more often sort of material that's like got even more potential. So there's a pressure and expectation that you know, with a big campaign, with a top director, that you're going to deliver to what they expect. So there's a pressure. It never goes away, but so you build a confidence not to freeze, to think, okay, I'll try something different. I'll work this way.
You have
to
to
get
get up your sleeve.
stuff
You
to
have to
fight.
unfreeze you.
I think you could also, there's an element of being a therapist as well.
Oh,
isn't
yeah.
there? Post-shoot
Yeah.
trauma, you know. And
Stays
just
in the room.
talking.
Always stays in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, mic up and editing room, you'll find out some stuff.
Yeah.
For
Well,
sure.
you do strike me. I've had the pleasure of working with almost everybody on the panel, but you do strike me as very calm people, and you are absorbing an awful lot of opinions and contradictory opinions. Like one person leaves, one person comes in, and doing that with elegance, and also, you know, your underlying confidence of kind of, I've got this now, and I'm.
Yeah, you can
I'll
always
drive
change
it.
things. And and I think that it's the resilience, because also anytime we show somebody an edit, they have a comment. So you have to really get used to criticism and get used to sort of understanding, okay, you're not, it's the undertones of what they're saying, or what are they saying without realising what they're saying, and how do you find your way through that? Because often, particularly from clients, what they say as notes isn't actually the notes. It just speaks to the note underneath the notes. That is the thing that you actually can address.
What they're saying.
Decoding the notes is interesting.
Yeah.
So what's the most sort of annoying note you get?
Prescriptive notes.
I had one
You
recently
want
that was just, it doesn't
notes.
work.
You want to, yeah.
It's not what I thought it would be. Okay, sorry.
Actually, I think the worst one is I'm not feeling it. That's horrible.
Yes.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
That's
Throw
a
it up
killer.
in the air and have fun with it.
Oh,
Have fun with it.
I just had 4 days of fun with it.
You don't. That was so much fun. I've just had.
Yeah.
More fun.
My daughter was doing a little project for a friend, and then she got like an email of notes, and she was like, bloody hell. I was like, welcome to my world, literally.
Yeah, just have fun with it. Imagine all the material. Imagine you're in a snow globe and someone's shaken all the material,
I've had
and
to
then just see
sprinkle
where it
some fairy
lands.
dust.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Sprinkling the magic dust,
Yeah, it's like really unprescriptive. You know, things you don't. Sometimes really prescriptive is good. You know, like
If it's easy and
exactly.
not damaging.
But it is that thing like you're saying. It's decoding, because someone might watch it and go, oh, you know, that bit feels too fast, and you're like, well, it's not. It isn't that fast. So, okay, is it the music? Is the music not doing what it should be doing there, or is it the scene before is too fast and you're just kind of lagging behind slightly? So there is definitely a translation thing that we kind of have to be able to do.
And that, like, the translation that we do is hindered by what I think is becoming slightly more common is the agency team maybe protecting the editor and not giving them full access to the reaction. So then when you get like drip fed just a little comment, but it's actually not what they were saying, it's what they seemed to be saying. But it's a really complicated thing, but it's where we sort of always push for in-person screenings and sort of like presentations, because also look in the whites of my eyes and tell me you don't like it. I'll take it a little bit better then. But it just kind of like softens everything, and you can feel the room a little bit. And because we have to work with people and the collaboration and that empath.
Things sometimes get lost in translation. If there's a client presentation elsewhere and you get bullet points back, and it's like, and you're trying to work out what it actually was the issue, and it turns out later that it was not that.
Do you like doing in-person
I do, because I want to say white to the eye, see the client, because you'll see him react, and they might make a comment, and you just know what I say. It could be just the music, or it could be tone. Often it's tone. It's not storytelling.
I think if it's been a very prescriptive ad from the start, and everyone knows what it's going to look like, and knows that even that some music's been thought of beforehand, they can watch it and then feel kind of quite underwhelmed, because they just sort of, there's nothing sort of new or exciting to kind of, you know, to grasp onto. I don't know.
That's a horrible place to be.
Well, it's also the being, I mean, that's incredibly great advice for me, of like always try and be in the room with you guys, because often I'll have to say to a client, just remember how you felt. If the first edit was great, you know,
gut reaction.
You know, just remember how much you enjoyed it before we start pulling this all apart, because you only get that first reaction once, and that's what you're trying to replicate in the audience.
Sometimes you get actually agency, which is somewhat kind of heartbreaking, but clients too. They sit down and it's their first watch, and they've got a notepad out. And you're like, really?
Just react.
Just watch it. Because if you're writing notes, you're also not looking at the screen. So, you know, just watch it. Make notes for sure, like on the 5th watch, but just watch it and see what your gut reaction is. It's like someone's coming in without, it's like that lack of curiosity. You should be watching everything with that curiosity of like, not a checklist.
Just an emotional reaction first, and then let's go into the
even if
details.
that's terror.
Even if it's terror.
No, I mean, I would say that about all creative presentations, actually. You know, like just imbibe it and feel it. You said it's a feeling earlier. It's like, feel it. And my heart sinks when a client gets out a notebook. And I often, if I have a good enough relationship, I'll be like, just watch it. We can make notes on the next one. Just watch it. We're going to play it a few times. So how can we be, you know, building on that, how can, you know, as creatives and clients, how can we be better partners to editors, to the process?
Time is a big one.
I've
not known a job suffer from having a long process of, well, you know, a long time with the editor alone with the rushes.
Because it can be weighted in the wrong place, the time.
More and
that's
more
happening
recently.
more and more. You get 3 days to cut it, then you have like 9 days for amends, and you're like, but how can that? It just doesn't. The maths doesn't work. It's like, I need more than the 3 days. If you're going to spend 9 days giving me feedback to something that, you know, that's madness.
You're able to craft it more in detail, explore music options, try things, temp out effects that need to be in there. But you also, in that journey, you have answers to the questions. Did you ever try, and would it be better? And we go, actually, we looked at that. And here it is.
And that's so much nicer to be able to do that.
You need to explore. If you don't get, I once worked in a job in America where the agencies wanted to come on day one and look through dailies with me. And then it all just, everyone was in the room and it all got confused. And the ECD said later, I wonder what you'd have done if you just had shown us your cut first. I said, well, we'll never know, because I wasn't allowed to do it. You can't go back to unknow all that. You'll never see what I would have done. And you know, that's the core. I think we do need that time to be able to present something that's been considered, tried out, and we really feel strongly is a point of view with the director.
Because it's much nicer to show something that you feel really. I hate that thing where you're presenting, you go, you know, you're on your way into work in the morning and you're like, I don't feel
it's not there.
It's not there.
No,
you know when it's not there.
And
that you can sell it verbally as much as you want, but deep down the feeling in the room will be it's not there. And if you'd had maybe one more day, that whole experience would have been completely different, because you would have had that extra time to get it to the place where you're really happy with it. But same with client presentations as well, I think, you know. It's like, if they come in, you want the room to have good vibes. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want a client to walk into a room where 5 minutes before you were all kind of like, this isn't
Or
where
doing
it
like the
should
last
be.
minute change
Yeah.
and you're
I
terrified.
mean, one
of-
thing would be, well, sometimes there's quite, you don't always get consulted in how much time you think you'll need, you know, which
Sure.
is, which
Yeah.
is, you know, like, so it gets decided for you where you'd actually, you know, maybe say, I need another day or whatever, but, you know.
Well, because you've also got that, you've got the time on your own, and then you've got the director coming in, and then that's a whole sort of process of anticipation and reveal and present,
And
and then you've got us
exploration,
coming
yeah.
in afterwards.
My experience is the overall timeline is shorter when you've done it, you've had time to craft it up front. There are
Totally.
less amends because it's
Yeah, yeah,
already
yeah.
in a better
Yeah.
shape.
100%.
When it's exposed too early and people haven't got answers to things,
Yeah.
it tends to unravel.
Yeah.
So it's a false economy not to give the initial
Mm.
process
That's exactly
time.
Which
right.
comes back down to confidence again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because if you've built the confidence in the timeline and the feeling in the room is good, then the client feels that, and then creative confidence is what it's pretty much all hangs on, isn't it?
I think also like being able to come in to any presentation with open-mindedness and just kind of, okay, am I going to see something different? Like exactly what you were saying, Frankie, like what am I going to feel?
Yeah.
And as much as you can forget what the intention was, how things were on set, all that, because the audience don't have that knowledge.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
sometimes you get
People-
that thing where people say, I hope I'm going to see this. And you're like,
Before
just,
you press
can
play.
we just watch it?
Or when you know, it's part of the reason that we play things multiple times the first time that somebody watches it is because you're often very tense. Again, you've lived with this for however long, and you're like, this is what I hope I'm going to see. And if they don't see exactly, you know, particularly if something's been storyboarded to death or animatics or whatever, they get tripped up almost immediately, and then you're trying to process, those two shots that I thought were going to go together didn't go together, and then it all unravels and you're not taking in anything else, which is why we have to do, okay, we're going to watch it, nobody talk, we're going to watch it multiple times through and relax into it. But like, I always try to say, you know, we can change things. If you hate the first edit, I say it to directors as well, you can come in and absolutely, I can start again with a clean timeline, it's not a problem, I can do anything you want me
I
to
can
do.
have fun with it.
Like, but you've got the process is better if you allow the time to bond, if you allow the exploration, and you have faith in the creative collaborators that have been either chosen by you or selected by somebody else for you, and it will all together be a better process, even if you then have to force us to do exactly what you want. It'll be nicer.
And are we talking about the right things? Like, we come in with preconceptions, and our idea of what was funny in the 15-second take. But are we talking enough about, or too much about attention spans or rewatchability is something I sort of think is really
That's
important.
my pet hate at the moment, is the best practice.
Oh, yes.
Information that comes through, the product has to be seen in the first 5 seconds or something.
Well, it happens more and more. doesn't
It's
it?
more and more, and it's, you know, and I know it comes down the pike, and the creators are trying to battle it off, but it's rearing its head more and more, and it's so counterintuitive to storytelling because unless the product or branding has been built into a clever storytelling deliberately.
Well, I think that's what we have to do more.
You do,
is to
because
plan
when
for
it's
it, yeah.
not done and it's an afterthought, can't we
Yeah.
put that up front? I mean, it's like a comedian telling the punchline before they tell the joke. I mean, it's just so obviously there's no story.
Yeah.
That's a good example of something that would be completely ruined. It's something, I think it's Jeff Lowe, Heinz baked beans advert. I think it's Wyden Kennedy, and it's opens on a guy at a luggage carousel.
Oh, yes.
They're not, the bags aren't there.
Yeah.
Then there's vignettes of him on holiday, inconsolable, on the beach and a massage and a lunch. And it goes 2 weeks earlier, card, and you see him packing his suitcase full of Heinz baked beans. Now, best practice would say, can't he pack the beans in shot one? He said, well, what's the point? You might as well go home.
Then it's like a 6-second something for the like, just beans.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's something it's been incessantly coming in, and agencies are under pressure to keep sort of reacting to it, and it starts filtering in. It's almost become, but well, that's what we have to do because we've been told that's what we have to do. That's actually, a real issue, I think, for storytelling, because it's not.
Yeah, no, it definitely is.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm sort of
Sorry,
It's
I
a whole
touched a
different
nerve.
talk.
Moving on. So, I mean, I'm interested. You guys all cut long form as well. I work across both advertising and filmmaking disciplines. Are they completely different sort of processes, practices, or maybe not as different as we think between sort of long form film and advertising ads?
They're not completely different.
No.
It's the difference between a sprinter and a marathon runner. It's
Which
the
is
same
quite
thing,
Yeah,
but it's massively different in terms of stamina, scale.
yeah.
Everything's just bigger on long form,
Yeah.
and you have to go at it at a different pace because it's just, it's 2-hour film. It's not 30
It's
seconds.
kind of weird when you do it, isn't it? Because you're kind of like a daily thing you're putting together, sort of sometimes like 5 minutes of,
Yeah.
and you're like, when you go back to ads, you think, oh God, this is going to be a
Yeah,
breeze.
it's-
It's not at all.
It's a marathon,
complete- yeah.
and you have to build it. But also, there's even more elements there, which, for going back to the original premise of the writing and then the shooting, and then you've got the full film, and you assemble every scene as was shot, as was written, as intended, and you put it all together, and you see this thing, this assembly. It's often overlong, but you watch it, and it's just a different animal. Suddenly it's a living, breathing film, and there are certain characters that don't work, or some storylines.
Yeah.
And on paper, everyone, that's rock solid. It was shot, and you're going, oh, we've got to solve some issues here. That's not working. That's
when the edit really starts.
really does, and then you are often sat with the writer. Sometimes ADR is needed to fix a problem, or you're having to completely lose a character. So you're going, okay, if we need to get to the castle 5 minutes earlier, and that character's not in it, there's now issues of flow to make that cut. So as an editor, you have to find a way of re-editing scenes so you don't miss the bit that you've taken out, so that it flows. And you might work on 20 minutes of a film all week, 20-minute reel, and then you put it back into the whole film and you watch it at the end of the week and you go, oh, well, that didn't work. We thought it would work. Well, or there's now an issue that now we've done that, in like minute 90, there is a problem because that character, we don't know where they're from. So you scratch your heads and you tend to do paper edits of like, well, if we do that there and that there, that should work. But it's a process, it's a very steady, long process of fine-tuning and fine-tuning.
Yeah.
But there's often a lot of story fixing that you have to do.
There's more opportunity to fix along the
Yeah.
way, isn't there? Which is something, that's good. But it's the editing process really starts off the assembly, and then, that's when you can, and it's amazing how much you can throw it all, it does get thrown around and chopped out, scenes get lost, and, more so than quite often in commercials, really. It's sort of almost because it's been a shorter thing that's been locked down.
Also, I distinguish between an indie film and a studio film.
Yeah,
or
of course.
like a streamer, because an indie film is really director's auteur media mostly. It's not subject to sort of screening numbers in the same way or expectations of studio. When you're working on studio thing, you get notes much like a client, effectively, and actually the advertising background actually is quite helpful to know how to deal with
Negotiate.
the politics of studios.
More
It's sort of on
brutal
a
than
100-time scale.
Huh?
Oh my.
No, I think it. I mean, I find it's a more brutal process. Can be films than
In terms
adverts.
of the feedback that you're getting.
Feedback, and just who's feeding back, and what just sort of in the film, your role as an editor is quite a sort of can be a precarious one, because if you come on with a director and then they want to change directions, then the producers have the power, and then you might they don't want to go with
Stuck in the middle.
director anymore, then so you might get the it's a sort of more political place, actually.
Yeah, I think it is.
Does it take a while then, when you're coming off a long form, to get back into the advertising headspace where 7 frames really make a difference?
It's a joy, actually.
7
Yeah.
too.
I find it really relaxing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we need to do, Ellie.
Yeah,
Do
just
some
take
long
more time
form,
out.
and then we come back to it.
You
And it feels
appreciate
really
it
relaxing.
all.
Yeah, relaxing.
That's the
Gracious.
appreciation of the ad and the
Yeah.
art of the
Yeah.
ad. So with 50 years of the eras in mind, do you think British advertising has a sort of editing sensibility or rhythms that are distinct, and has that evolved?
Gosh, I like to think so.
Yeah.
I feel like we're more elegant
Yes.
than some other regions. But it changed, you know, there's an evolution. You can see it when you look at the 50 years of just like, you know, the top ads from each year that the arrows have put together. You can see that the trends change and sort of fluctuate. I do think as a baseline, we're maybe more on the authentic side.
Yeah, we're less, I feel like we give the audience a bit more respect, perhaps. We're not quite, we don't hit them over the head. I mean, if we're just talking like UK, US work, I feel like we don't hit them over the head quite so hard. There's a bit more kind of, we lead them and then
More
we let them.
Yeah,
you know.
definitely. It's quite a different tone, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also, I don't know, there's always the name of British advertising still, you know, is held in a really high standard, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we were having an interesting conversation. I didn't want to ask an AI question because I was like, oh God. But I feel it would be to talk about the future of the edit specifically and some of your experiences in terms of technology changing what's possible. How is that affecting what you do now?
Well, you can, I've just actually on the job I've just been doing, they've been, you know, the director actually was doing it. He was making up shots that they're then suddenly, you know, more as a kind of reference, but, you know, there was a couple of things that had come up that we needed that he hadn't shot, which he wasn't asked to, but he was making up shots to kind of, to put in the edit. I mean, probably a nightmare for post-production, really, you know, which is another thing. But so you know, you can do things that can, you know, or just give references that, you know, reference shots that, or you know, not necessarily sort of, just, you know, that we might have, you know, in an edit that was lacking something, you might have gone to somewhere else to find a reference. You can, you know, use AI to kind of make a shot that, you know, but you also, it's a difficult thing with post-production because it's how, you know, you can do something in AI, but can they replicate that?
And is it allowed?
But it's people are using it for that, I think, quite a lot, you know, at the moment.
I just did a job where in the US, it was 4 30s, we cut them, we showed them to the client, and the client said, I don't like the actor and I hate all the footage. We were like,
cool.
Oh, great, okay.
Good first.
And that was when the just have fun with it thing came about, because it was like make or break basically then for the agency. It was a new client that they just won the account, and this was their first piece of work, and it was a huge kind of like launch campaign. And so the client obviously naughty because they were on set, they obviously approved the actor and they approved all the shots, so that's a bit naughty, but equally that's then a huge problem that needs to be solved. And so we ended up cutting like 12 different films out of the footage, and we were kind of writing the scripts as we were going. We were kind of brainstorming how we could make these different, totally different films to what had originally been boarded. And AI came in and we created whole new shots. We gave this AI company all the material. There was loads of stills that had been taken on set, and we got back these incredible, I mean, it was disturbing. You just didn't know that they hadn't been shot in the same.
I mean, I think it's like using the footage that was already there,
Yeah.
that can work, because it's when
It's
you're
coming
using
from
stuff,
yeah.
you know, and that's where is a problematic thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can, people are, you know, if the actor hasn't said something, you know, but, you know, then, use their voice to constitute another sentence and things like that.
Yeah.
And then did you say that they changed an expression as well?
Yeah, the
that
kind of note from the
terrifies me.
client was that he was too smiley across all the films. He was like not cool enough. So then they changed his face to be cooler and less smiley.
But then how often do we get the note of like, oh, is there a smiley, a take or whatever? And it's like, if there
There
suddenly
is,
that
There always
I
is
don't know.
now.
I like
Yeah.
saying no.
But it's like we were saying, it's like it opens up this can of worms, because then it can never, when does it end?
Yeah.
You can
No, I know,
always
it
be...
could go on and on and on.
Everybody's
Yeah.
just going to be massive grins on.
Yeah.
Of course,
Just
it's
a
very
matter of
muddy
time.
about what's licensable and
That's what I'm...
Yeah.
what can you actually put out for
Yeah.
real that
Yeah,
you can
you
own.
have to make it very clear.
In the
don't
cutting
you?
room, we're offline, we can do anything, but what can it actually be used is the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Or
the thing. It can
license.
get us out of jail, but it could also just be a door to no discipline whatsoever in
Yes.
terms of decision making
Yes.
in the process that builds up to
Yeah, and then it will just end up being about money.
Yeah.
How much can you keep spending on making these shots?
I mean, on a more basic level, there's kind of potential for organisational help as well. You know, like find me a shot of this in the rushes. To, you know, sort of.
Yeah, there's lots of tools in the background that are you know, edit
Speedy.
tools are bringing in,
Yeah.
you know, transcribing the dialogue, syncing stuff up. It's a search tool. There's a lot of AI in the background that's
Yeah,
making
of course.
some of the grunt work quicker.
Yeah.
But that's just more like,
And sometimes that grunt work's important, right? So
Yeah.
definitely for people
Yeah.
that are coming up and through the industry,
Yeah.
but if you can press storyboard edit button and it just finds best takes and puts it all together. Again, but then we've bank it for later. But then like
How do they
you
learn?
still need
No,
to go
totally.
through the rest, and that
Yeah,
bonding
still
thing
needs
is still
to-
important.
Yeah, and you
Do
still
them all
need a
yourself,
human
you know.
reaction to a human reaction,
Yeah.
right?
No,
So that's
I'd
what
never
you're
not
looking for.
go through all the rush. I mean, that would be
So we
cardinal
are
sin.
talking about an uncertain future with new technology that will at once save us and probably kill us. But we are unfortunately out of time. That was fascinating for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much.